So I think it's a really simple way of looking at how do you take something you've learned, translate it into the lawyer relationship, lawyer-client relationship, and yet you've learned something about yourself in the process. And I do think that's what being a holistic lawyer is about, this sort of never-ending exploration about learning who you are, learning how to better relate to your clients, learning how to better relate to the opposing lawyer and often the opposing client. On account of that, I think results sort of talk for themselves. On account of that, I've had opposing counsel often refer clients to me. I've had opposing litigants try to hire me for their family members when they had a problem. So here are the people that I had either sued outright or were main witnesses accused of wrongful behavior, and yet they came to me to help solve their family problems. So it was done in a way where I think they still felt respected. Yes, I pointed out that there was a problem. Yes, there was a problem that needed to be corrected, but I didn't vilify them. And I think that's a sort of an important differentiation as you learn how to be a better lawyer, is learning that not everybody is all good or all bad, and that's important to think about when you're practicing law. And it's important to remind your clients about when they're involved in a matter with someone on the other side who's like them, not perfect, and like them wanting respect, and like them wanting dignity. And that if you show those things or demonstrate those things, that we can all come to a much faster solution. I realized that Memphis would be an excellent place to practice holistically. Memphis and I think a couple reasons. One, we are a focal point for peacemaking in the country. So the idea of lawyers, holistic lawyers, I think is very much about being a peacemaker, and I mean that in the sense that it is about sort of bringing less harm into the practice of law. And holistic law moves us in that direction. So in a way, we're being peacemakers. We're moving away from a combative problem-solving model into a more collaborative or more holistic or more complementary or more understanding or more humane or more respectful problem-solving model. And that moves us, I think, toward being peacemakers. So Memphis has the first eternal peace flame in the country that burns at the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. And we have the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis because Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated here. And this, I think, helped Memphis become very focused on the need for peace, the need for understanding, the need for healing. And whether that's racial healing, whether that's healing because of one's gender, whatever type of healing that is, I think we became focused on that as a community. And I think that isn't just the political community, it's also the legal community. So it became obvious that the type of practice that I was interested in would do well in Memphis. And I think it would do well anywhere. I think it's really what we want to see in the practice of law. We want to see lawyers who are more problem-solving oriented than they are money-collecting oriented. We want to see lawyers who are more interested in the welfare of their clients than they are in how can I benefit myself from this situation. And even if that's not conscious, that's a part of what happens in the practice of law. So in trying to sort of figure out what is it that's going to help Memphis become, or the Memphis legal community become oriented and become knowledgeable on that, I thought a couple things needed to happen. One thing that needed to happen is that the potential litigants needed to know that holistic law was an option. So I started talking around the community about holistic law, to churches, to organizations, to Rotary, to the library, events that anyone would have that might give me an opportunity to share with the potential litigants, the public that we serve, that there were options now available. And that was received extremely well. Then lawyers started coming to those events, or they would hear about those events, and they became very interested in knowing more about the holistic practice, and they wanted to get on listservs or email lists, anything that would help them develop and learn more about holistic law. So it became then obvious that we needed to do some education in the legal community. So I went out and started talking with others and found other like-minded individuals and helped bring us all together to form an organization, a very loose organization, that would put on the first continuing legal education program for lawyers as peacemakers in Memphis, which was held in October of 2007. And the result of that is that a number of attorneys from some of the largest firms in the city attended this event, and then were able to go out back to their law firms and talk about what is holistic law and what is collaborative law and what is therapeutic jurisprudence. And these terms that are very much all about the very principles that I've already mentioned, about respect and about humanity and about service. So we started there and had a very successful program, and now have moved into bringing collaborative law into the city of Memphis, and I think it's going to just continue to grow immensely from that. But it was sort of a brainchild that I had about how it is that it would be most helpful to get the information out. And I'm still very much convinced that the best way to influence the change and let others see how useful it is to talk directly with the public, because I think they are the ones that, as the consumers of legal services, are in the best position to make a judgment as to whether or not it's a helpful service, to have an opinion as to do they, how are they feeling about their legal system right now and how do they think it can improve. And I've gotten some publicity about that, not really by any particular effort on my own. Paul Harvey did a piece on me in 2003, the summer of 2003, about the civility, basically bringing back civility into the practice of law. And one of the first things I learned about that is how the media can really make you sound much more amazing than you really are. And I don't think I quite recognized myself even in Paul Harvey's piece, but it did showcase, I think, that holistic law was a really powerful way to bring civility, which he was interested in, bring civility back into the practice of law. And then there are articles that have been out. I had a client who was interviewed, and there was a cover story on the American Bar Association Journal. And the American Bar Association Journal is the largest legal publication in the world. And the cover story was what I like about my lawyer. Well, I'm sure a number of people read it because a number of people don't like their lawyers, and they're interested to know who are these clients and what did they like about their lawyer. I was the only woman who was mentioned, and one of my clients was interviewed. I think there were 6 of us, 6 clients in all that, 6 lawyers in all that were showcased in that particular article. But it was really helpful to, again, get out the concept that you don't have to always fight in litigation and win large sums of money in order to be respected and highly regarded by your client. In fact, in that particular situation, it was a client case that I recommended against litigation because of other reasons that I thought would make the litigation very difficult for this particular client. And this client ultimately agreed. And as a result of that agreement, it was an employment case, and they were still going to be working for the same employer. But as a result of deciding not to sue their employer apologized to them, which they completely had not anticipated, but was the main thing that they had most wanted. I didn't know we were going to get that, but I knew that litigation was not the solution. And yet here's somebody who felt that they were incredibly well represented and very much like their attorney, but it didn't make them large sums of money. And I think that's true for many people. I don't think every case is a large dollar case. And yet we want all of our clients to feel that they were well represented and that they got something out of the process that helped them move forward. And I think that's a lot of what being a good lawyer is. And I think it's easier if you're practicing in the style as a holistic lawyer, or certainly in a style that is focused on trying to bring client humanity back into the process.